Hello, you're watching my video on the Stalker Cloak recently released for Planetside 2. In this video, I'll be giving a brief review of the Stalker Cloak, followed by general information about cloaking and how the Stalker Cloak can be utilized. The Stalker Cloak allows you to regenerate your cloaking device while still cloaked if you remain still, at the cost of your primary weapon slot being deactivated. It's a simple trade-off, but the question for you will be, is it worthwhile for your playstyle, or for a playstyle you might like to try out? On the subject of trying out new playstyles, the Stalker Cloak is quite effective at ranks 2 and 3, which will apply a total cert cost of 150 or 350 respectively. So if you're considering trying out such a playstyle to offer you a change of pace, or you otherwise find something about it appealing, the barrier for entry to use it and be effective is fairly small. You can use the cloaking device with good effectiveness even at rank 2, with an investment of only 150 certs. So if you complete this video and you're still not sure if it's for you, you might want to consider dipping in a lower rank and trying it out to see if you like it, and then decide if it's worth investing further certs into. Further cert investment will increase the time you can be cloaked while moving, and make it regenerate faster, which will improve the overall efficiency of the cloaking device. Now let's talk a little about the specifics. It seems to drain energy at the same pace while moving, regardless of if you're crouch walking, sprinting, falling, or being lifted by an elevator beam. If your character is moving, regardless of if you moved him or not, your cloak is draining, and I haven't been able to notice a difference to the rate the cloak is drained, which means that either the drain rate is the same, or the differences are minor. As for tactical validity, we have to ask, what can you do with a Stalker Cloak that you can't do with another cloak and a primary weapon? Well, being able to permanently cloak allows you to stealth through an enemy base much more effectively. It's a type of cloaking device that's significantly more useful for the purpose of actual infiltration, and I think that's a sign that things are maybe starting to look up for the infiltrator class. I never thought the infiltrator class should have been a sniper class. I would have preferred to see infiltrator kit involving the ability to sabotage terminals to make vehicles spawn damaged, or with weakened armor, or maybe with tracking beacons strapped to them so they're constantly visible or otherwise hindered in some way. Instead of primary weapons, maybe assassination tools like a better knife. When I see the word infiltrator, I think actual infiltration, espionage, sabotage, and assassination, and I'm reasonably pleased that the class is at least partially taken a step towards allowing the option of using the class in that manner. Now, you can't interact with the base shield generator without decloaking, but the Stalker Cloak does allow you to take your time to search for anti-infantry mines and get around them without detection, and then hide somewhere to defend your recently sabotaged generator from being repaired, and perhaps even EMP grenade a group of people that come to repair it and get a knife killing spree or something of the sort. You can't attack while cloaked, but you can decloak and rapidly activate the cloak again after attacking, which may bring up some assassination possibilities if you're at least semi-competent with the Commissioner, the Hunter Crossbow, or any of the suppressible pistols like, say, the Mag Shot. Just like I mentioned a moment ago, this can also be combined with the EMP grenade to ambush groups of enemies so they're all at half health, allowing you to capitalize on your surprise advantage, which is a necessity against a group given your reduced firepower. You can capture base points while cloaked, which unfortunately is more useful for trollsies and annoying the other team than actually doing anything interesting. I once sat in a corner chain capturing a point for several minutes and didn't get killed until I got bored and left. It's an incredibly lazy way to distract and otherwise disrupt a few enemies as they rush back and forth to capture a point, and I have rather mixed feelings on that being a thing, but regardless, as of this moment, you can capture points while cloaked. So far, I've used the Stalker Cloak to wander straight through open battles and firing fields and usually survived, and I've gone AFK inside enemy bases and come back to my character nearly always alive and well. Which means that it does give you some gameplay options if you're at risk to the need to AFK because you're doing other stuff like your real-life cert farming, but still feel like playing Planetside 2 at the time. If you're the patient type or simply in a more chill mood or looking to explore a playstyle more suited to stealth and sabotage, or some other aspect related to what I've talked about appeals to you, then the Stalker Cloak may be a worthwhile investment for you. By this point in the video, you should be able to deduce whether or not you're actually interested in the Stalker Cloak, and if that's all the information you wanted, then like, subscribe, share the video, etc., and go about your day. Feel free to keep watching if you want, but unless you're looking for a little starter advice on cloaking or information about low-resolution cloak detection and the like, the rest of the video won't provide much use to you. If you do want some information about cloaking, keep watching.
Would you like to know more?
So if you're not used to playing an infiltrator, or just don't know the class particularly well, let's talk about cloaking for a minute so you don't get horribly murdered whenever you try the Stalker Cloak. Ninja Training 101 with Balthazar 3457. Rule number 1 is not to use the cloaking device, but to understand the cloaking device. Be one with the cloaking device. The first thing you should know is the cloaks have varying levels of effectiveness depending on if you're sprinting, running, walking, standing still, or crouched. The most effective cloak comes from being crouched and holding still, followed by standing still, followed by crouch walking, followed by running, followed by sprinting. As such, you're a lot less likely to be noticed if crouch walking than you are from sprinting. That said, a cloaked infiltrator is still very difficult to detect from a long distance, even when sprinting, and if wandering through a firing field with tank shells and rockets flying by, you'll most likely not even be noticed. The differences are much more important within the 30 to 40 yard range where the blur of your infiltrator moving is much more obvious. Now on this subject there is something I'd like to clear up. A commonly held belief is that when playing on low resolution, infiltrators become invisible to you. This is not entirely true, and I filmed some of the differences on low to medium resolution. If you're looking at an infiltrator on low resolution, the way the cloak functions is changed. Instead of being blurry, the infiltrator becomes a grayish-black outline of the character, with varying degrees of visibility depending on what position they're adopting, and a sprinting or running infiltrator should still be fairly noticeable even on low resolution. However, that said, as a result of this change on lower resolution, when adopting more stealthy positions, an infiltrator can often blend into the nearby environment easier and thus be more difficult to spot. And when crouched and holding still, will become nearly invisible in many situations as their very thin gray-black outline fades into the environment around them. So while it's not technically true that infiltrators are invisible if you're playing on lower resolution, it is true that someone playing on higher resolutions could be more advantaged at seeing infiltrators that are adopting certain stances. And there have been several situations where I feel I was noticed by someone because they were playing on a higher resolution, and someone on a lower resolution wouldn't have seen me. And I do think this is a balance problem that should be addressed, both because I feel it gives mixed expectations to someone playing as an infiltrator, and because I find it unfair to disadvantage someone for playing on a lower resolution. The differences are in some cases minor, but if you are planning on trying the Stalker Cloak, this is information you should be aware of, and thus it's being included in the video. Now, let's move on.
Rule number 2. A ninja is calm. Repeat, calm. Patience is a virtue of the ninja.
Much of the time when you get seen or killed as an infiltrator running Stalker camo, it'll be because you were sprinting to save time and an enemy noticed you and shot you, not because of the enemy's resolution options. The blur of your movement is going to be what gives you away in most situations, and it's important to note that even if you're crouched and sitting still, simply looking around and spinning your character can have an impact on your cloak, and very often it's the movement and motion that makes an enemy player look at you, more so than the texture of the wall you're standing in front of looking out of place. So you should be aware that sitting still but constantly spinning your character to look around may reveal you. And you should also be aware of which situations are safe to sprint in and which you should hold still or crouch walk in, which is something that will come a lot easier with some practice.
Rule number 3. A ninja is one with his surroundings.
Sometimes if you're being shot at while sprinting in stealth, you can switch to crouch walking to the side or sprint behind cover and crouch, and often enemies will be fooled, thinking you've run away. This is a risk and will not always work, but it can be helpful to help escape some situations.
Rule number 4. A ninja understands his foe.
When using the Stalker camo to infiltrate an enemy base, if the enemy suspects an infiltrator is near, it may be a good idea to reposition. The anti-infiltrator dark light attachment will highlight your character when the light is shined on you, and this light penetrates most cover, so even if you're behind several crates, you'll still often be revealed. So if someone using a dark light is searching for you, don't hide behind a box thinking it'll protect you. It may be better to run away if you're about to get put in a fight you might not win without your primary weapon. Another common mistake made by new infiltrators is to spot nearby enemies. I couldn't begin to list the number of times I've ran through a room and heard, "Enemy light assault spotted, enemy light assault spotted," shouted from right behind me. And players who make a habit of that are going to get their brains blown out by random passersby on a regular basis. If you spot someone, your spotting yell can be heard by anyone nearby you. So unless the environment is very loud and thus able to mask the sound of your shouting during the chaos, it may be best to let enemies run by if you're on your way infiltrating into a base. If you're about to decloak to sabotage a base shield, maybe you should fire a recon dart at the floor. Remember, while you're sabotaging the base shield, it starts flashing to members of the enemy team before you finish sabotaging it. So the recon dart may give you a heads up if someone nearby notices it and is sprinting in to investigate before you have time to cloak and hide. Anyway, in this video we've covered the Stalker Cloak and some stealth, cloaking, and infiltration basics for those that may be interested in trying it out, even if not very experienced infiltrators. Thanks for watching, share the video, blah blah, I've said this already. I'll see you next time. Later, YouTube.